So, I wrote this many years ago, what I experienced on September 11th. And I normally post it on whatever social media I have at that time. My original post was on MySpace, just to tell you how long it's been since I originally wrote this. But I never recorded it, so I thought it would be a good time to do that, especially this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So, well, here is where I was doing 20 years ago. I was deployed to Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia for Operation Southern Watch. My job was to provide security for U.S. personnel stationed there. I've been there since June 5th, and my last day of work had been September 10th. September 11th, I was packing and cleaning my room because we were supposed to leave on the morning of the 13th. I had just finished and I went to the chow hall. That's when I started watching the news. At that point, only one plane has hit the towers, and most people thought it was an accident, including myself. But we all watched the second plane hit live. Then we heard about the plane that hit the Pentagon. I went back to my room and started to unpack. My roommate noticed what I was doing and asked why I was unpacking. I told him to just turn on the TV. He asked me what channel. I told him any channel. It's all over the news. We all knew it was attacked by some type of terrorist group. We went to our squadron to stand by for orders. They told us that we were going to be on standby and that they were going to post us out anywhere between a few hours, if not in the morning. Standby meant we couldn't go anywhere and we had to wait in our dorms and have our gear with us at all times. We didn't know how extensive the attack would be. A little known fact is that Iraq shot down one of our unmanned aerial drones in southern Iraq that day. At one point, some of us started to think, what if Saudi Arabia is going to turn against us? Is Iraq going to take advantage of the attack? Was Saddam involved? Is the U.S. going to get attacked every day like other countries do all over the world when it comes to terrorism? This was my first deployment. I remember when they told me I was going to Saudi Arabia, I was wondering why we were still sending troops over to the Middle East. It was for Operation Southern Watch, which was supporting the ceasefire agreement against Saddam Hussein. I also remember my first intelligence briefing about the potential threats of terrorists in the region. That was the first time I ever really heard about Al-Qaeda, but they weren't the only threat. The threats included everything from a third country national who worked on the base that would try to get intelligence to sell it to some of these terrorist groups, to Saddam launching missiles at the base. At Khobar Tower, also the Khobar Towers bombing, in which 19 airmen died, was still fresh in the U.S. Air Force's mind. A terrorist attack like that would be the biggest threat against our base. When I used to talk to pilots on the base, they told me how they would get fired at by Saddam's forces, how they repeatedly had to engage targets in Iraq because Iraqi forces violated sanctions or because they threatened them. I started to realize that the first Gulf War never really ended, and then there was this overgrowing threat in the Middle East that the majority of Americans didn't know about. Started realizing why they deployed me over to the Middle East. One of my sergeants said it was because we were making sure that the threat over here didn't get to the U.S., that a Pearl Harbor attack didn't happen again. His words played in my head as I tried to fall asleep that night. When I woke up, I thought it was a dream. They posted me in one of those towers guarding the perimeter of the airbase. When night fell, I saw tracer fire. The control center said that the Saudis told them that it was celebration fire from a wedding. I wanted to believe that, but everyone in my sector knew what they were really celebrating. My team didn't know what they were going to do with us. We were told to stay packed because they said there was a good chance they were going to forward deploy us. One of my biggest memories I had was going to the chow hall. I got to know this Saudi Arabian, or he might have been a third country national, that worked the short order line making eggs and breakfast. He was a good guy. I used to talk to him when I was getting breakfast. I remember after 9/11 I didn't say anything to him. I was mad at myself later because I realized I shouldn't have stopped talking to him. When we finally left our home base, we finally left because our home base needed more security personnel. We were the last security forces team in over a month to leave Saudi Arabia. When we flew out, they crammed us onto a cargo jet, and the pilot did a combat takeoff, which meant that he turned off the lights and took off as fast as possible, just in case if there was any anti-aircraft fire. When we got back to the States on the 22nd of September, our leadership told us that our leaves were all canceled, and to report to work the very next day. It took me a while to realize what happened to our country and how that was going to overall affect my time in the military. And normally, after I post this, I would put what I was doing every following September 11th, from September 11th, 2002 until now. However, I just sum it up that a lot of it was in the military and also in my civilian law enforcement position. I always wanted to be in law enforcement, but September 11th really solidified me wanting to serve in that capacity for my country. And now, with what's going on now when it comes to the war on terror, I fear that we are going back to that September 10th type mindset where we're so distant from that day where we were attacked on our own soil that we might think that that wouldn't happen again in such a large capacity. I hope I'm wrong. I know there are still active duty service members that know that that's not the case, and that's why they serve. I watched the names be called off today during the World Trade Center memorial for the attacks, and they have the family members read off names, and then they would say that the name that they were connected to. And when they talked about that person, their mom, their dad, their son, their daughter, their uncle, cousin, a lot of them broke down. Some of them broke down similar to probably when they broke down on September 11th or the following days when they found out that their loved one was never coming home again. And that emotion, we all had a type of emotion that day, either anger or frustration or fear, and we need to remember that emotion because that will keep us out of the September 10th mindset. And we have to remember how unified we were against that threat, even if it was only for a short while. And I hope that one day our country can get back to that. Even though I fear it might be too late with how divided we are, especially what happened in Afghanistan a little over a month ago. That's really my thoughts. Just don't forget what happened today, 20 years ago. Even if many of our politicians might have. Thanks.